Inbox management. Sometimes it annoys us so much because it's a part of our area, it's an area of our lives that just gets away from us. And when we think about introducing effective ways of managing your inbox, it's less about keeping it clean and more about how we're managing our inbox to enhance productivity and reduce stress. Because if your inbox gives you anxiety, you need to do something about it, okay? And we're gonna talk about that today in this video. We're gonna talk about just different tools to help you to handle your emails more effectively and making your inbox a tool for success rather than a source of endless frustration. Let's get into it. All right, I want to start this video with talking about best practices. And one of the first best practices I can think about is keeping it simple and personal, right? A lot of times we take on the ways of others in how we do things, including Google's or Outlook's automated way to manage things. So Google gave you a way to manage it and you're like, okay, I'm not going to do anything about it, but then it's not how your brain works and then you get overwhelmed. So for example, there is a way in Google to fill, I'm an Outlook hater, okay? And Teams gives me PTSD from being in school and using Teams for those virtual calls. Google has a way to show you your unread first. And that's how I organize my inbox. So if you go into the settings column, you can actually reorganize how your emails show up. That's just a simple fix, but it's very personal for me because I want to see the things that are unread first and then allow the other ones to stay afterwards. And then when it comes to keeping it simple, I want you to think about making sure that the labels that you're using or the folders that you're using, if you're using Outlook, that they are actionable, right? And what do I mean by actionable? You want to make sure that the labels or the folders are not just sitting there as storage containers, because that's what you have Drive for, all right? The labels should say things like waiting for response, keep it simple, read later, to be filed, action needed. You don't need any more than that. You might want another, and the to be filed, you can have sub-labels to say, okay, filed in marketing, filed in operations, filed in maybe finances, if you have a lot of receipts coming in, but those aren't necessary because we go into the inbox to get things done. It's not a storage container. But we do know that sometimes you want to put things away because you want to reference it later, and that's when you put it into the filing section, right? So the labels that I recommend is action needed, read later, to be filed or filed, or to be filed or resolved. So the to be filed can be one section where if you don't have the time to file it right now, and then resolved is where you can have sub-labels with the different sections that you can file things in. I'm going to put a screenshot right here of what that looks like in my inbox, right? If you have somebody else who's reviewing your inbox, then like I have a VA who goes into my inbox and tells me anything that doesn't need to see me, I do not want to see it. But then I have a little label that's called Zara's inbox in my inbox. So when I go into my big inbox, I only go to Zara's inbox and I only see the things that need to be actioned by me. Now, those are my best practices. So keep it simple and keep it actionable. Then the second thing, you remember I spoke about the fact that your inbox isn't a storage bin? Emails are also not tasks, right? Stay with me. Your email system is not the same thing as your project management system. Sometimes we don't have project management systems, and that's why we have so much of the things in our heads, and that's what makes us overwhelmed. If you're doing any sort of business, even if you are working in a 9-to-5, I promise you, our project management tool is going to be so life-changing. Start with something as simple as Trello. I'm a ClickUp girl through and through, but Trello is very simple and it can help somebody who's just starting out. But I want you to treat emails as what they are. They're messages, okay? They are messages. And if an email is going to take you more than maybe about a minute and a half, 2 minutes to respond to, it means that it now needs to become a task that's added to your task management system or your to-do list. So you see, you person who keeps on spending 1 hour, 2 hours in your inbox, it's because you're using your inbox as a task management system, and it's just so ineffective, right? If you use it as the messaging system that it is, it helps you to now keep it clean, because then you're like, okay, if this needs to get done, it means it needs to move into to be actioned, and then you have a block. Then you have a block in your day that you go in and you action things that are on your to-do list. That's it. You see how easy that became? You no longer are staying in your inbox for a long period of time, but you're going in, checking what you need to get done. If it takes you about a minute to respond, you respond. If it's going to take you longer than that, it needs to go on a to-do list, right? All right, make sure you remember that. If you have any questions about this, of course, drop us in the comments. Let's talk about it. And then as we talk about putting it on your to-do list, that's when you need to make sure that you have blocks in your day. So this is a bigger conversation now. It's not just about how you are managing your inbox, but how are you managing your time? You can decide that you have blocks of time that you're going to go into your inbox based on how your routine is. Like some people want to go first thing in the morning because they want to make sure that anything that happened, after business hours, they're checking it. But for some people, first thing in the morning is going to be super distracting for them. So they do it maybe about 10 o'clock. Personally, I like first thing in the morning just because Google sends me the roundup of my agenda first thing in the morning. So I go in, I see my agenda for the day, and I have it in my notebook. I love having my notebook nearby. I write that down, and then I check the things that are in, and we just keep it moving, right? I also check it again anytime in the afternoon, and I check it right before I go out of office. Before I leave, stop work, because I don't really have an office, so to the office there. But yeah, stick to those boundaries. A lot of times we think that we need to be checking the inbox multiple times a day because money might come in, but the truth is money can usually wait. You can wait until 2 hours time. And that really helps with your productivity, because then you're now able to move the things that need to get done into the project management tool, or if you use our notebook onto your notebook to-do list, and then you can decide, okay, where will this fall in the block for your day? Is this going to be work that's done between the hours of 2 and 3, or is this going to be something that might not need my immediate attention, so I can add it for a later date, but then because it's in a project management tool, then that tool will remind me on that date that I can go to the email for context. You see how easy that became? You see how light your brain that did, how that lightened up your brain, because now this thing that really doesn't need a response until 2 weeks time, it doesn't add that mental burden. 1, 2, it doesn't stay in the inbox as unread to clutter it so that you don't forget. And then 3, it gets added to an actionable list that will give you a reminder to make sure that you get that task done, right? And that all comes together when there are strong boundaries in place, when you've managed your time effectively, and when you're working with a to-do list. As I said, the to-do list can be in a project management tool, but it can also be just a good old book. A good old notebook works very well. And then 4, I don't even know if we're counting, but I know this is the 4th one. We're using automated filtering. So did you know that you can set up rules that automatically sort your emails? Yeah, you can. You'll see here, this is a filter, and in this filter, hopefully I remember to screenshot this properly, but in this filter, you're seeing that everything that comes in that has the word unsubscribe goes into my label that says read later. And I have a task for read later every Monday during my CEO or admin days. I do not read anything that comes in with the word unsubscribe until on a Monday at that particular time of the day. Why? Because the truth is I don't need to read the newsletters. And when newsletters come in and they bog down the inbox, then it gets messy. And I like keeping a very clean inbox. I love inbox zero. Inbox zero also means something different for everybody. Some people go, oh, well, it just means that there are no unread emails. Some people think that they want it to be no emails at all, so they want it deleted. They want to go in and see something clear. So for me, I just want no unread emails. They can stay. But then we have this great button, the archive button, especially in Google. I'm a Google girl. I know that Google has been very controversial these days, but honestly, you guys will have to peel my dry, cold hands out of there, okay? I love me some Google Workspace. Everybody controversial. If you're supposed, you would be off, you wouldn't be watching YouTube right now. We wouldn't be existing, right? The only person who was not controversial is Jesus. Oh, no, sorry, he was controversial too. But yeah, automations really help us to manage the flow of the emails. There are so many automations that you can put in. I have, like, every time I have a new client, whenever I get emails from them, it is filtered into a client work label. And those labels, they work for me. I don't want to talk about those labels here because I know initially I said to use very simple labels. My labels are not that simple, but it's because I've mastered the simplicity. So then I can get a little bit more complex. And of course, don't get carried away with it. Don't get carried away in your inbox trying to figure things out. I find that this is more so for people in corporate, spending hours just skimming through emails that you've been CC'd on that you have nothing to do with it. But set time limits. Entrepreneurs also have this issue. I have a very big avoidance issue. So because I have a very big avoidance issue and I tend to ignore certain emails, if this email is not the current thing that work is getting done in, I will ignore it. So like I do some brand deals on the side. I have a personal brand that I manage that's separate and apart from this brand. And that email, my personal email, sometimes I do not go in there for 2-3 weeks at a time. And then when I do go in there, it's a lot of stuff, right? And I can get tied up in it, but I do set a time limit for that. And I give myself a strict limit. I do not spend over maybe 15-20 minutes when I go in there. I set an alarm, and whatever is important, like if it's important, I task it out. If it is not important, I ignore and I move on. What I should have said too is when I talk about the filter of putting all the unsubscribes into one place, is that I unsubscribe relentlessly. As soon as I see a newsletter come in or something that's no longer adding value to my life, I didn't even want to get these newsletters, I unsubscribe. And it has helped tremendously because those emails, you don't need them. They're just trying to sell you more things. I do have some newsletters that I really look forward to. I love reading some people's newsletters, and that's how I feel about my newsletter. Like, that's how I want you to feel about it when you read it. You can get the link in the description below to my newsletter if you want to subscribe. It is called the Fairy Ops Files because the business operations that I bring to your life is like magic. That's so corny, but it's so true. Okay. So yeah, you can go ahead and you can subscribe to my email list. I talk about this very similar things. If you are a reader and you want to read about peace, productivity, increasing your profit, and of course I talk a lot about my maternity leave planning in that email list. You can go ahead and subscribe to the Fairy Ops Files. Sprinkles, cute sprinkles. And then the last tip I'm going to leave for you when it comes to inbox management is email templates. So the email templates option on Google is not automatically turned on. You have to go into settings and then turn it on, like, on purpose. And these have helped so much because there are things that you talk about frequently. There are questions that you respond to frequently. There are emails that you send over and over. Just save them as templates, right? And if you're using something separate from Gmail or Google Workspace, you can save those templates somewhere else. You can save them in a Google Doc. You save them in a document somewhere. You can save them in the Notes app in your phone. But just having templates to keep the conversation going is going to be revolutionary. And I know you're like, Zara, I don't say anything over and over. Go in your inbox and see. I promise you are saying the same thing over and over. You're onboarding the same clients. You're using, and even if it's not the same, it's similar. So have some sort of structure that you can develop or you can tweak. It's always easier and better to start from something than to start from nothing. Inbox management 101, and that's it. Keep it simple and actionable. Keep it clutter-free, and also remember to set deadlines set boundaries, and task those action items out. Really, it's about making email work for you, not the other way around. So start implementing these tips. Any questions that you have, I'd love to discuss it in the comments below. But let's do it together as we work on implementing better, streamlined tips to make our day more peaceful and definitely more productive. Talk soon. Bye.